If staying alone, use only one pillow on the bed. About 4 years ago, my husband and I planned an exciting trip to Osaka, Japan. The first thing we needed to do was make a reservation for accommodations. I started searching online to find the perfect place to stay. After some browsing, I came across an incredibly budget-friendly option. The price for this guest house was a mere 3,000 yen in Japanese currency, which is roughly equivalent to $30 at the time. However, there was a reason why this place was so cheap. It turned out that the accommodation was located quite far from the heart of Osaka. Also, looking at the pictures, I could see that the building seemed a bit old and worn. My husband expressed concern, wondering if it was too far away. I reassured him that it's okay. We'll be spending our time exploring outside most of the time anyway, and the main thing is that it's cheap at $30. After making the reservation, we finally arrived in Osaka. On the day of our arrival, we struggled quite a bit due to being unfamiliar with the area and not knowing much Japanese. Eventually, after half a day of searching, we found the place. The actual guest house turned out to be even older and more worn out than we had expected based on the pictures we saw. Nevertheless, considering the price of $30 per day, we decided to stay. This guest house comprised of a small living area with a bedroom attached. As we began to explore the place more thoroughly, we noticed charming little decorations filling the corners. On the living room table, we found a guest book filled with comments from previous Japanese visitors. I took pictures of different parts of the rooms, and in that moment, an odd feeling started to creep in. Upon closer inspection, I noticed that dust had accumulated in various corners of the house. It felt as though this dust had been undisturbed for months, giving the impression that the place had been without any guests for a long time. As time went on, we began to detect a musty smell, and the mold that was slowly appearing in certain areas became more evident. The dampness and humidity were uncomfortable, which left us feeling unease. In an attempt to freshen the air, I opened a window and sent a message to the management to inform them of our arrival. To my surprise, I received a lengthy response. Initially, I had thought that it was just a routine message with general information and instructions sending out to all guests, so I didn't bother translating it to read, and that was our big mistake. We unpacked our belongings at the guest house and set out for sightseeing. Now, we're outside, enjoying sushi, shopping, and even admiring the night view. It was already past 11 o'clock at night when we returned to our guest house. As soon as we entered, we noticed that the smell we had first encountered, despite having opened the window to ventilate, had spread significantly. At that moment, I began to hear a sound, and then my husband heard it too. The sound was similar to someone shouting in a cave, echoing eerily. Then suddenly, all lights went out. In the darkness, an eerie stillness hung in the air. My husband urgently felt along the walls, searching for the light switch. He clicked the switch repeatedly, but no lights came on. Perplexed, I decided to search on my phone about power outages in Japanese guest house. While scrolling through the search results, one post caught my attention. Reading it carefully, I realized it described instances where foul odors, strange noises, and sudden power outages were all attributed to ghostly presences. Though I was momentarily creeped out, I brushed it off as a simple power outage. It was late. We were tired from our long day, so I suggested we wash up and go to bed. The warm water in the shower eased my muscles, relieving my fatigue and bringing a sense of contentment. All of a sudden, the lights came back on, and I felt a sense of relief, but only for a brief second as I saw the reflection of a woman in the mirror. I couldn't see her whole face, but I could make out her thin lips and a mole beside them. Thinking it might be a trick of the light, I closed my eyes and opened them again, but the woman's image remained. Startled, and with a gasp, I rushed out of the bathroom, not knowing exactly what it was, but I just felt that I shouldn't stay there any longer. I went to the bedroom to wake my husband up, but upon entering the bedroom, I found him sound asleep, cocooned in his blanket, from head to toe. I didn't want to wake him up, because I knew he is also tired. Knowing full well there was nowhere else to go at this hour, I decided to wait until morning to leave. I lay down next to my husband, intending to sleep, but the room was really cold that I began to cough and shiver. At that moment, my husband's hand emerged and gently wrapped around my neck. His touch comforted me as he caressed my neck, cheeks, and held my hand tightly, except that his hand was also cold as ice. Nevertheless, he is my husband, so I surrendered to the reassurance of his touch and drifted into a deep sleep. The next day arrived. I woke up and my husband wasn't next to me, but my husband is the kind of person who sleeps so deeply that he can't wake up on his own no matter what. So it's really bizarre that he woke up first before me. I went out to the living room, and I found my husband lying on the couch, still wearing the clothes he wore yesterday, fast asleep. I was so surprised and said, "Hey, did you sleep on the couch last night?"
I must have fallen asleep on the couch while waiting for you to finish showering,
my husband replied. So my husband had actually been sleeping on the couch from the beginning. And as he continued talking, I was at a loss for words.
Weren't you sleeping right next to me on this couch after you finished taking a bath?
With a shiver down my spine, I urgently said, "What are you talking about? You were sleeping next to me on the bed in the bedroom. You even caressed my neck and held my hands." However, my husband seemed uninterested in my words, focusing instead on the condition of my neck.
What happened to your neck?
My neck, cheek, and hands, the places where I thought my husband had touched, were all red and bruised. At first, I thought it was because I had slept in the cold and my muscles had tensed up a bit, but all the other places were okay. At that point, I realized I couldn't stay there any longer. I quickly told my husband about what happened last night and left the place. Then I sent a message to the management. I receive a reply. But this reply is exactly the same as the message I received when I first entered the room. I quickly turned on my translator app to read the content. It said, "Refunds are possible even on the day of check-in. Keep the bathroom door open for use if possible. If staying alone, use only one pillow on the bed. And if the lights suddenly go out, do not stay inside the house." And so on, with various incomprehensible instructions. This made my husband suddenly panic and search through his phone for pictures he took at the guest house. In one of the photos, there was a guest book on the table I mentioned earlier. I used the translator app to read its contents, and my husband's face turned pale. It said, "After the power outage, strange people begin to appear. The reason the stay is cheap because there are 3 additional people in the room, 1 on the couch, 1 on the bed, and 1 in the bathroom mirror." The guestbook entries exclusively detailed eerie occurrences witnessed by previous guests.